and welcome to my cake kitchen. I am Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. I also undertake baking tutorials and decorating tutorials live, and today we are on a cake decorating marathon. This is episode 3 of the marathon series because we're decorating a 4-tier wedding cake. In the first 2 episodes, I filled the cake in episode 1, cake, all 4 cakes in episode 1, came back in episode 2 to trim and reshape, resize all 4 tiers with different tasks and different objectives. For the base tier, it required trimming, which is this tier, it required trimming and carving. The second tier over that required trimming and resizing from a 10 to 9. And then the third tier required just trimming to keep the shape, and the fourth tier the same. This is episode 3, and I'm back to ganache the cakes. I have said in the lives, I am not sure how this developed because it requires a huge ton of tasks. But the goal is for you to be a part of my decorating process in real time, just so you can pick yourself some tips. So this tutorial is going to be extremely task based because it's going to be me covering this cake in ganache and attempting to form the scallop shape also using ganache. I'll be talking you through all that, but before that, I won't be able to answer you if I don't set myself up correctly. So let me dip quickly into the screen here and set this chat up so I can talk to you whilst I am completing my tasks over here. I think the community of people who were already here earlier know that this series is developing. I am anticipating probably there are aspects of the series that I may not be able to film. For instance, I'm thinking ahead of time, like the fondant covering part we won't be able to see, but that is okay. I'll talk you through what we're doing right now so that you can get yourself some tips. So we have a scallop shaped cake, which is the base tier of the 4-tier cake. I have talked in detail about the cake and what we are using that for, and everything else you need to know about the formative basics of the cake. This is hot water that I am pouring into a glass jar to keep my tools warm. One of the good tips about working with ganache is that you have to ensure that your tools are warm to aid the spreading of the ganache. Plus, we are attempting to form a cake, so we will need all the help we can get. Because it's going to be task based, you will see me rush through some things. But if you have questions, stop and ask me in the chat. When I can, I'll take a break and I'll answer you. So over here, what I'm doing is I have just placed a sheet, a greaseproof paper over the cake. Now that is going to serve as a barrier between the cake and the ganache disc when I come to removing the ganache disc, because the ganache disc I'm going to be putting on top of this cake to help me shape the cake will eventually be removed. So that is the intention for and that is the ganache disc that I need. There is one exactly the same size and shape underneath this cake. So the intention is to ensure that this ganache disc is used to align the shape of the scallop, and you'll see me do that. This is a 12-inch cake, so the intention is to ensure that the scallop is all shaped correctly and the lines are aligned correctly. Okay, so we make sure that the lines fit, and one way to determine that is to make sure that whilst this scraper is moving, the cake itself remains in shape. And if we have any tension around the movement, I will have to trim the cake to shape. Right. Okay, so Yeah, I think we're going to have to trim some parts of the cake to shape. I did say that when I was trimming the cake, but it's okay. I can handle that. If I'm too focused on my task, it's because I want to get it right. So just cutting the shape so that it makes room for where the scallop will be edging into the cake, because it has to be aligned. Unfortunately, I can't shape it away from me. So if you can't see what I'm doing, just bear with me. So essentially, if the scallops are not aligned, because I should be able... William, you wouldn't want to eat that. Why? Is it too big? Ha 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 ha. William, thank you. It's a compliment. I appreciate you saying that. Well, somebody has to eat it. Sometimes we do a perfect job because that is what we are hired for. And then we leave it for somebody to eat. So I don't like going to parties where my cake is served, because then it hurts to cut into it. Fun fact. Except for my son's cake. We made my son's cake recently on this channel. I developed it through a live session, and then we went from start to finish, and I had to take it to church, and then we all cut into it, which was exciting, but gosh, it was a lot of work. So I know what you mean, but I think the beauty of what we do is that somebody has to enjoy eating it. So essentially, if the scallop is shaped correctly, it should move without friction. The what do you call it? The scraper should move without friction, and the top should stay steady. So as you can see, so if I can feel any tension because some cake is sticking in the way, I have to shave it down so it makes it easy. Well, William, trust me, if you look at the previous video, because these lives are developing in real time. So 20 minutes ago, I was here to trim the cakes. And trust me, if you saw the cake then, you wouldn't want to eat it either. It was horrid. So check the previous live up when you can, right? So I wasn't meant to be trimming. I was meant to be covering a cake. But the reason why I am trimming these down is because I can see the shape. I need to get a perfect shape to be able to cover. And yes, it's a red velvet cake, William. Okay. It's a red velvet cake. And there we have. Yeah. Okay. It's getting easier to move the... Please, if you're in the chat and you're trying to talk to me and I haven't responded, it's because these tasks over here are so particular. I have to be able to do this without mistakes, because this is the base tier of the cake, and I couldn't make any mistakes doing that. So, right, so if I am too focused on my tasks here, please bear with me. You're equally important. I think I've got the shape right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear my work surface of this, and we are going to start crumb coating. The cake itself is going to be covered in fondant. I know the word fondant sends triggers into the internet stratosphere. There are people who are self-appointed fondant haters, which is fine. But this is a wedding cake on a late summer's day. It's for Saturday. So this is client preference. I wouldn't want to make a fondant cake, but client wants a fondant cake and that's what I'm hired for. So right, so we've got that covered now. Let's get in here and wipe this bit so that we don't move that sticky bits around. And I see my apron has come off. No. Oh, okay. There is William in the chat who says he cooks, but he doesn't bake, right? It's a 4-tier cake. So this is just tier number 1. So let's see how I can start this. It's going to be tricky to, because I am going to have to derive the scallops. I don't mind if I find ganache from the bottom that edges all the way up, only because it's going to be covered in fondant. So I am not particularly fast about that. So first things first, so I'm going to do it a scallop at a time. So we have scallop number 1. We'll scrape and that's it. Right? Can you see what I did there? Right, so at least we have scallop number 1. Let's move that around. It's a lot of work, but patience will get us there. See? And I decided not to whip the ganache so that it will give me a clean look to the cake. And the top of my cake, I'm going to just try and leave it with just a touch of small bit of ganache, just so that it can withstand the weight of the cake towering down on it. The ganache ratio I am using here is 3:1 white chocolate. Okay, just in case you want to know. Right? Yes. Is it Matesy? Yeah, I know you're back. Matesy was in the previous lives with us. It's lovely to have you. Welcome. Let me get myself a offset spatula that I can control. Right, an offset spatula that I have a bit more control of. Right, so I am moving to scallop number 2. It's a lot of ganache, but it's also because there is a space. One way you can probably you can develop or create the scallop without using ganache is to bake in scallop tins. But that also means that you're going to need ganache boards or a form of a shaper to help you. So either way, you're going to need something to help you. So I just baked round and carved it to shape. And the intention for a crumb coat is really not necessary for me at this point in time. And that is simply because the cake is going to be covered in sugar paste. And to crumb coat the cake and then come back and cover it, it's going to take me an extra task that I am looking to avoid because I am short on time. So I am just skipping a whole crumb coat phase. Crumb coating, just in case you are new to cake decorating and don't know, crumb coating is when a layer of buttercream is applied or ganache is applied to a cake to keep in the crumbs so that it doesn't come through the rest of the cake when the cake is built. So that's ganache. I also chose not to whip the ganache just so that the ganache can maintain form to withhold polishing and standing. So we are getting through scallop number 3. Can you see? Yep. So let's continue to. So that's ganache number 1 done. Let's transition to ganache number 2. If I whip the ganache, I'll probably have a lot more to use, but I also need the cake to maintain form because it's going to be covered in sugar paste. It is important to me that the consistency of the ganache here is set. It is really set. So I'm probably going to drop it in the microwave. Oh, William, thank you for being here. Thank you for stopping by. You can always come back another time. Thank you for your time. Take care, my dear. Whilst I want to change the consistency of ganache, I want to make sure I don't melt it beyond what it's needed for, because if I did that, then we won't be able to cover our cake at all. So there you go, more ganache. Essentially all I'm doing is aligning the scallop ganache discs and applying the ganache in between and shaping it. And where it falls short in shape, I'll come back and fill it out, right? So the ganache disc is doing the hard task for me. Oh, thanks, Will. Thank you so much. I'm sure you will receive notifications for videos such as these and more. And if you want to learn to bake, look, the channel is optimized for beginners, absolute novices. So come back soon, my dear, and take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. This William is in the chat, and Williams enjoys cooking, not baking. So yep. So there you have it. So you see, we're forming the shape easily. Let's move up. I know, Will, she will be excited. Check out my lives. And we are a supportive community here, my darling. We are so supportive of each other. We pass on tips. Look, this is essentially a baking learning resource for you. So check out the lives, check out the long form videos. If you have questions, catch me in the community post, or in the comment section. I'm always on hand to pass you tips. We don't gatekeep here, my lovely. So look, challenge yourself to bake yourself a batch of cupcakes and see what you think. From recipes to tips, you can find that all in the channel. It's unfiltered, it's raw, it's relatable, and you get to see me bake from one start to the end. So if you pick my recipe, you will know that you're in for a treat, because throughout the process, I hand you my best practical tips for you to get great results. So, Wills, if you're leaving, I'll see you soon back here. But otherwise, welcome to the channel and thanks for being here today. Okay, now let's move on to covering the cake. Right. So yeah, we are shaping the cake as we're going on. Right, I've ended up making this so warm. So, and I'm looking to cut down the covering time. So this is pretty straightforward for me. Okay, so there you go. Yep. The ganache discs are amazing for helping you form and cover cakes. So, yeah. Flexi, what am I doing? I am attempting to form a scallop shape using ganache discs whilst covering the cake in ganache, just in case you want to know. So that is what I'm doing. There are so many ways you can do this. This is just one of many. And today I am looking to just save time for myself so I can go, because in between all of these is a lot of sugar flowers I have to also make. Okay. And there you have it. Okay. Number 2 and number 3. Okay. So whilst I am not trying to completely crumb coat this cake, let's... No. If you're asking if I can use different cake plates for different cakes, not necessarily. I actually mostly cover my cakes freehand, except because this is a specific shape, it will be much easier and efficient to use that. So yes, I use ganache cakes specifically for shaped cakes. So for instance, for heart-shaped cakes, I have used ganache discs, and I think I have a tutorial in what do you call it? In my shorts form, you will see I was using a ganache disc because I didn't have a heart-shaped cake tin, and the cake was too small. So I ended up like doing it with a heart-shaped ganache discs. But I normally cover my cakes freehand. You will see my tutorials online and you'll find that mostly, unless for specific reasons, if I'm trying to get a super fine sharp edge without the use of ganache disc, I will do something called the double card method. If you've checked on the channel, you'll find some of those tutorials. I have talked about all those techniques live over here, right? So for this particular cake, there you go. So it will probably make sense to leave the cake at this point to chill completely, just to set the first form of it before I come back and do anything else. But if you were here before, you will see that the cake didn't start like this at all. It's a round cake that was baked 12-inch and then shaped and now has been covered. So the ganache has almost encased the cake completely, and that is okay. But I'm going to wipe my work surface, come back, and we will clean it all the way up. Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Silk. Silk, do you bake? Right, so we're going to, I'm going to wipe my work surface now quickly. Thanks, Silk. I appreciate the compliment. Right, so oh gosh, look, I was just attempting to wipe my work surface, as in my board surface, and now I've pinched the cake, but I will try and clean it up. Don't worry at all. So we've done that. Where is mine? Okay. So let's go over it again for the last time. Right, there you go. All done up. Right. So this is a round cake that has now turned scallop, right? So we need to let this cake chill completely. We'll come back and fill the parts that are slightly exposed and cover the top, and then that will be the cake done. But this is just one of 4 cakes, so let me just put this in the fridge and I'll bring the second cake back, and then we'll start work on that very quickly. Bear with me. If I disappear, it's because I'm putting this in the fridge, and I'll be back shortly, right? So bear with me. Well, whilst cake number 1 is gone to chill, we have cake number 2. Number 1 is a 12-inch cake. Now we have a 9-inch second tier. So we're going to cover this again in ganache. Make sure we derive a polished, round-looking cake. And that is the goal here. So to start with, I am not using the ganache discs for this one. I am attempting to get the shape from a double board method. This is similar to the ganache disc, except mate, I can't seem to pronounce your name, but I see what the sentiment is. There's someone in the chat who just feels like more people need to like these videos. It comes with time, right? I'm not in a rush. As long as I'm here, I will continue to teach you. I love to teach and hand you my tricks. But one thing you can do for me is, whilst you're in the chat, you can subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and make sure that even after the live today, if you ever see a notification for the videos, you continue to watch, at least watch till the end. It is one way to support the channel. We're still a fairly small channel. Okay, so whilst I'm talking about channel and that, if you see me move away from different subjects to the task, it's because I'm trying to get to the task rather quickly, because that will be very important, because the ganache has been upset a bit and it's unsettled. So if I don't work quickly, it will set and I'll have to warm it up. Now, the double board method is equally the same method, similar method as the ganache disc, except this time I'm using a board. And why? I can cover the cake freehand, but when it comes to tiered cakes, structure is key. Structure, structure, structure. So structure is key to making sure that the cake is set. So if you don't get your base structure right, you are never going to get a straight standing cake, and it's that simple. So if you watch the previous videos, you will see that the intention has been to ensure that the structure and integrity of the cake is set with the cake layers, which is why I have thicker layers here. If you've watched my videos, you'll find I use smaller layers than thicker layers. But because we are going to be having tiers, other tiers coming down on this cake, we need the cake to hold on its own. So the layers are bigger. The layers are bigger. They are the layers are. I have my son here distracting me, and I'm worried. Do not touch. For a minute, I thought my son was going to click us out of the live. So, right, I was just distracted. Where's my train of thought? Okay, so the structures are, the layers are bigger, and we're looking at about, 2-inch per 2-inch layer. So this is 6 inches, and with the buttercream, I had to use just a small amount of buttercream here. You can see the ratio to buttercream is fairly small, like the amount of buttercream here. And that is because when buttercream, no matter what you use or how you use it, when it comes to room temperature, the cake is going to be displayed for X amount of hours, and the buttercream will eventually set. Even though there are dowels in the cake, you want to make sure that the buttercream doesn't begin to melt in the cake. So when you're building a tiered cake, structure and considerations have to be made for how the cake preserves, eventually how it's presented. So I'm using a double board method to help me determine and be certain of the level nature of the cake. If I did that freehand, I'll be winging it. And for 40 years, it's a risk I don't want to take at all, right? At this point, I should have a spirit level, but I don't know where I placed my main spirit level. So I'm going to get my mini spirit level, which is a right angle ruler. So there are tools that we use in cake decorating that are not always apparent and obvious, but they are important. There's a lot that cake decorating has in common with engineering. You'll be surprised, because essentially I'm trying to build a steady house. Okay, let's see. I have never been sure whether the way I use the spirit level is correct. So if you're an engineer in the chat, let me know if this is correct. But yes, it seems like it's level over here, right? And on the sides, I want to make sure I get a perfect right angle so that when this is moving, there is no tension around the cake. And I think I've been able to achieve that. So let's move on quickly to covering this cake in ganache. If I was using buttercream, I would perhaps cover this using a piping bag, but I don't have buttercream. So what I am going to do here is I am going to offset the buttercream ganache a bit with my offset spatula, and we are going to start by just having enough ganache on the base here. And if I add more, I can always take it out. So don't worry if you see me adding more ganache. We are going to, because essentially we want to add enough so we can spread that around. My head, okay. Cake decorating is a messy job. Anybody ever told you? So if you see someone decorating a cake online, clearly there's a lot of editing that has happened, which means you won't get to see the real representation of the cake decorating process. So I trust that you will find some value in these videos. But I hope you are also not put off by the raw nature of it, because essentially this is how you learn. Because I could equally film these in small aspects of shorts, and filter it out, but that will not be of any value to you. Thank you, Kay. Oh, there is someone in the, there's Kay in the chat. I can't pronounce her real name, her full name. And earlier there was someone in the chat whose full name I couldn't pronounce, but they didn't like me shortening their name. So unfortunately, I don't have, when I'm on the live, I don't have Google to hand to prompt me to the pronunciation. So I apologize if I can't pronounce your name. It's actually one of the things that upsets me so much, because a name is really important and I can't always get the name right. So any way you can help me pronounce your name and acknowledge you is really important. Thank you, Mina. Right, so 2 bowls of ganache done. So next time anyone says a cake is expensive, remind them that is 2 lots of white chocolate ganache and 1.2 kilograms gone already. So don't come and tell me your Nana makes cakes, okay? Look at me feeling all angry. Right, so let's cover this cake. What is put there will be taken out. So okay, yep. Right. Right, we got there in the end. Okay, so we'll get ourselves a stainless steel scraper. You go round. Naturally, I'm inclined to do this on a first scrape, but I also know you might be interested in knowing what I'm doing, so there you go. Yep. Can you see? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. You know what? I just try. I try. Because I also recognize that you make a choice to be here, whether you like cake or not. So I just want it to be a great experience for you, and I try. But yes, I see what you mean. You'd be surprised what people complain about. But thank you. Thank you. And thank you for giving me an alternative to making it easy, okay? I wish I could. Where do you come from, Kay? Right. Drop, if you're in the chat and you would like to join in, do you want to tell us where you are joining us from? Which country? So we didn't, in this case, we didn't do a crumb coat. I skipped the crumb coat completely and went straight to covering the cake. And that is because we are going to be covering the cake in fondant. So it really is not a goal to make sure the cake doesn't come through the layers, because essentially they are going to eat the entire cake with the sugar paste on the side. But can you see how easy it is to get a sharp edge without all the drama? Because if I had done this free hands, I could, but for a tiered cake, I'll be taking such a huge risk, and it's a gamble I'd rather not, because what could be worse is putting all of these together, going to set the cake up, and then you squint and the cake is wonky. That will be too late for correction. I don't want that drama. So there we have it. That's the 9-inch all done. It's not completely done yet, but I've set the first phase of it. So I'm going to leave that to set, and we'll bring the 7-inch back to cover. Yeah? Oh, thanks, Kay. Kay is from South Africa. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm just... On a good day, covering a cake is tough enough without having to make it into a live. Okay, so thank you guys for being here with me. Right. Okay. The good thing is that the lives are a bit taxing and add a bit of time to what I need to do. If I was doing this on my own, I probably would be done by now, because I'm having to teach it. But one good thing about the lives is it helps me stay organized as well, because then I am able to kind of do things as I go along with the planning process. So it's a helpful thing for all parties involved. Right, there we are. And so the first layer of ganache has been applied to the 9-inch, and there we have it. I'm going to wipe the ganache discs on which okay, there you go. So this is one of the basic ways you can cover a cake in ganache, but we're not done. We'll need to let this set. So I am going to go and drop this in the fridge to chill, and then I'll bring the 7-inch cake back, 7-inch, which is the third tier, and then we're going to undertake the same process all over again. Bear with me. I'll see you shortly. There's almost something guaranteed to go wrong on the live. I've literally spilled some water. So let me wipe that quickly, and then we'll get on to covering this cake. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. The 7-inch cake, no, the 9-inch cake is in the fridge now. We have the 7-inch cake to cover. Again, following same process. I have a 7-inch ganache disc, and I'm going to introduce a 5-inch disc in here. This time, what I'm going to do is just cover the top with just a layer of ganache. Because when you are also building a tiered cake, what you do not want is layers and layers of ganache, because it will not support the structure very well. So you want to make sure that you use just enough, but the cake can bear the weight. So we have a ganache disc. The reason why, if you went here earlier and just joined in the chat, the reason why I put a greaseproof paper in between the ganache disc is that it makes it easy to be removed. Then you press that down, and then you align the ganache discs. Yeah, you align it, make sure that it is aligned. To ensure it's aligned, it should move round without any friction, and it shouldn't move out of place. If it goes round, it's a perfectly round circle, if it makes sense. So part of why we trimmed the cake also is to leave a gap here, so that the cake will, the ganache will fill into it, giving you a perfect shape. But if we didn't have the gap and the cake took over the ganache board altogether, it means the cake, we will cover the cake with the ganache edging out of the 7 inches, which can lead to the cake being slightly deformed. So that is a good tip for why I use ganache disc. And like I said, I could easily do this freehand if we were doing just single cakes. But for tiered cakes, this process lends and supports the structure building of the cake. Okay, so it's been roughly covered, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull. Let me see if I could pull this. Yeah. So this is a right angle thing. It works like if I was using, what do you call it? The Pro Froster, right? It works. Consider this a metal Pro Froster, except I haven't adjusted it to the height of the cake. Because what you want to do is adjust it to the height of the cake and use it, but probably not as necessary. For structured cake, there are so many ways you could help get your shape right. So this is a right angle ruler, and look, it's going round. It's telling me this is a perfectly formed cake. So I'm kind of pleased with that, as in it's a right angle ruler. So if you set it up right, then it goes round, it doesn't move, doesn't give you problems. You shouldn't have any problem with your cake. So that is just one way. And this is a non-slip mat, just in case. Oh, Caesar, I am glad you are finding some value here. Welcome to the chat. And whilst you're at it, please do consider subscribing. Join the community. We are super, super supportive here. I hand you tips. And part of the reason why I undertake the live videos, this is a wedding cake. So this is not just a tutorial. This is somebody's wedding cake that I thought I will bring you along the journey and show you what it is like. And you get to see my process, what I do behind the scenes. What I do behind the scenes, I've just run some hot water on this thing here, right? So look at how easy it is to derive a sharp round cake. Right? And if you see me doing things so easily, it's because I've been making cakes for a long time. So it appears easy, but it's not as easy as it appears. But then again, tell a lie, it is easy, because the point is I am handing you the tips for you to help yourself. And when you're filling a cake, the reason why you have to be able to be careful the amount of filling that goes in the cake also is because when the cake comes to room temperature, it could leak and form air pockets. Okay. The first covering is essentially done. I'm going to leave this to set again. Yep. So essentially the first part of the first coating for this is done. We did the 12-inch, we did the 9-inch, we've done the 7. Now I'm going to put that in the fridge, and then we will come back and do the 5-inch, which is the smallest here of all of these. But as always, I am going to wipe my work surface rather quickly. And I must say, when working with ganache, having stainless steel or metal tools is super helpful, because you can keep them warm and they are very sharp and they will assist the decorating process quite easily. Whereas if you were using plastics, it will be a little bit inefficient. So that is something to note. Okay, so consider the first coat of ganache done here. I'm going to put that away, and then I'll be back with the small 5-inch, which we will cover. Well, the 7 inches in the fridge now. So we have the 12, 9, 7 all crumb coated sort of. And then we have a 5-inch, which I have to cover now. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to put that over, and like I did the other ones, we're going to cover this too. Right, this is the part where I should mention that the consistency of the ganache is just as important as the task you're trying to achieve. Yeah, so I'm just going to put some ganache over the top here, spread it all the way out, make sure it's even. Yep, there you go. This ganache disc is bigger than I need it, so I'm going to cut this down to shape for me. It doesn't matter if it's not round, I don't mind at all. I just need a barrier that will make, yeah, so something little that will serve as a barrier. It's in here. Okay, over that. And then I have my 5-inch ganache discs. Right, that goes on there, and I have to then align them. Right, so yeah, perfectly aligned. Perhaps just to be doubly sure, let's get our level. Yeah, and then I can use that to, that's a right angle rule, so right, yeah, it's all level here, and then we can start by filling the cake out. So I'm just going to start with the bottom a little bit, because then it gives the top part room to set. If you're a beginner, you could do this part with, I would say, a piping bag, but the consistency of ganache sets really quickly. So having to put the ganache as it appears in a bag, come back and work it out, it's all going to be a little cumbersome, but you could try. Okay, so let's scrape this clean. Okay, so we have a perfect round, but it has gaps. So how do we fill the gaps out? We add more ganache into the gaps and then we scrape it clean. More ganache. Okay, so there you go. There you go. Right, so I have a warm scraper here. There you go. Yep. Remember, if your cake is not polished or set right, when you come to cover it in sugar paste, it will show. Right? So I think there's a part here that needs filling. Oh, Tammy, hi there. Hi, everyone. Hi, Tammy. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for being here. The task is a little bit the stream is a little bit task focused, but we do have occasions where we have fun. But when you have a 40-year wedding cake staring you in the face, honey, it's hard to kind of like keep up with chatting. So yeah, hi there and hello, welcome. Okay. Right, so that's a perfectly formed round. Right, I'll leave this as that because this is almost covered, and then when we come back, we can fill it out. The thing with filling a cake also is knowing when to stop, because you can be obsessed about getting it so perfect you will ruin it. So we've gone from a basic looking carrot cake to perfectly round covered. So we have a scallop shape 12-inch. All of those, if you're just joining the chat, those cakes are in the fridge chilling right now. So we're going to leave this to chill, and then we'll bring the other ones and then polish them off and be done. In the meantime, I need to wash my hands, and yeah, we'll continue there. Right, so my hands are washed now. Okay, so let me put some here. Okay, right, there you go. Right, so I'm going to put that in the fridge, and then we'll bring the base tier back to fill it so that we can have a polished cake. Yeah, so if I dip out of the chat. Oh, Tommy, I'll come back. Let me get the base tier, and then I will hand you tips through the process. Yeah, so hang in there for me. Okay. Thank you for your patience. So our 5 inches now in the fridge. And this is the base tier. So if you weren't here when we covered the base tier, bear with me, I have an itch. If you weren't here when we covered the base tier, this is the base tier. It's a scallop shaped cake. It's a 12-inch cake. And to be able to derive the scallop, I had to use scallop shaped ganache disc to assist in the process. So that is where we are. So right, so we are going to almost do the second coat of ganache. If you see me moving that way, it's because I just want to clean up my work surface and get some organizing. So Tammy, let's talk. If I keep moving around, just hear what I'm trying to say and ignore my movement, right? So let's talk about results. First of all, it takes time, consistency, and practicing, perfecting your skill to get great results, right? So if you are not deriving sharp cakes as you would like, don't be disheartened. Right, sorry about that. If you are not deriving perfectly covered cakes like you would like, my advice to you is don't be disheartened. Hang in there and challenge yourself. Now, here's a question, Tammy. How many years have you been cake decorating? Would you call yourself a pro? And what is your, like, in the cake decorating process? Oh, Tammy, you're a treat maker. So you are essentially a baker. Do you realize that in baking, right, there is those who make treats and other things and enjoy the process are the scientists. They love the science of ingredients, composition, and mixing, and then deriving amazing treats, you know? And then there is the artist who loves the art of decorating. And then there is the person who is in between. So I am sort of in between, which is kind of a privilege, I know. So Tammy is a treat maker who would want to learn to decorate cakes. So here's some comfort for you. I'm sure if you baked me a brownie, I would love it, right? But maybe I enjoy cakes more than brownies. So we are all good at one thing and not so good at another. So if you're not getting sharp edged cakes, don't be disheartened. Perhaps you have to work at investing some time because the decorating process is very task based. And like every skill, you're going to have to put the work in. And if you don't enjoy it, the results are not going to be great. And if you've only ever decorated about 5 cakes, then yeah, don't be too hard on yourself if you haven't been able to achieve great results. What you're looking at here is the result of nearly a decade of work. The number of cakes that have collapsed. And even now, I'm not talking as though like my cakes never collapse. Look, if you've checked the channel, you will see that I have cakes that have collapsed in real time. And one of my most recent lives that I undertook, I was working with American buttercream, and boy, I struggled. So I can make a 3-tier cake, cover a sharply looking scalloped cake, and then I can't pipe with American buttercream. Can you imagine? So Tammy, I say that to encourage you to say, do not worry. We can't always be good at all things, but my encouragement is if you really wish to learn something, then dedicate the time to it and keep going. So that's yeah, I know, because this is, I'm sure if I'd filmed this video with a 50mm camera, edited it as a full tutorial, it will look much presentable, but then you won't see the raw and relatable factors of the decorating process. Does that make sense? So what I'm doing here takes skill and work, years and years and years and years of work. So don't be too hard on yourself. And if you wish to be able to cover a cake so cleanly and professionally, just take the time. The good thing is that on our lives, like today, you get to see me in real time. And I think I have a beginner's basics video where I show you how to take a sketchy cake from very battered looking to a well polished cake. So you can start with some of the videos on there, yeah, pertaining to covering a cake. Yeah, if you have further questions, just leave them in the chat. I will answer them as I go along. Okay. Right, so the scallop is nearly covered. And you want to make sure that you don't have any holes left on the cake at all, because any holes will show up in your sugar paste. Say if you're covering the cake in fondant. Okay, so Tammy is asking a question. Is the secret to buttercream when covering a cake? Tammy, can you elaborate on that question further? Do you mean to get the to cover your cake right, should you use buttercream? I don't seem to understand it very much. So break it down for me a little bit, please. But if you've noticed, I'm not using buttercream here. I am using ganache. I'm using ganache because I don't find buttercream particularly stable. So I fill buttercream into my cakes, but I don't use buttercream to cover my cakes at all. None. I think if you've seen me use buttercream, which I have done in the some of my live videos, that was because I was also trying to answer a viewer question by undertaking the task. So I undertook making American buttercream, and then I wanted to use it to pipe a cake. And then in real time, I found out the recipe was a little bit sloppy. So it didn't derive me the results I wanted. Okay, there's a problem here. Okay. Okay. To be able to get the sharp corners of the scallop, I have to almost dig in. So if I am so focused on it, it's because I'm trying to correct a developing mistake. And I would rather just avoid any mistakes. Not today, devil. Not today. Okay, so Tammy, what was the question about buttercream? Did you mean getting your buttercream right will set your cake? It doesn't matter if you cover a cake in buttercream or ganache. The base presentation of your cake will aid a polished look. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you can't use buttercream. I think if I was using Italian buttercream, it will be different. But I say that to say I don't use buttercream because of personal preference and because buttercream is just unstable compared to ganache. Ganache is more superior in helping shape the cake and keep form compared to buttercream, which is why I prefer ganache. But whether you're using buttercream or ganache, you just want to make sure that the base of your cake is set before, because a perfectly looking cake is based on the foundation work that one undertakes. And the foundation work is obviously includes the covering of the cake in either buttercream or ganache. So ganache is far more superior, and you can adapt the ratios of ganache quantities to get the results you want. For instance, if you wanted to get a solid looking cake that will stabilize in a summer heat, perhaps raise your ratio to 4 to 1, which is for every 400 grams of chocolate, white chocolate you use, you have 100 grams or 100 mils of cream, right? So now I wish my surface board was larger, but hey, it will work. So we are deriving some perfect scallops here. I wish you could see it properly as I am. Okay. Right. And when you're working on a foil covered board, as I am now, you want to be careful to not apply too much pressure on the base, because otherwise you'll be scraping the parts of the foil along with the cake, and that will not help. Okay. I think ideally I have achieved the results I want. That's yeah, that is looking like a fairly polished cake like I would like. Now there are just some bits and bobs around it that I would rather clean off, so let me just try and wipe that clean, leave the cake to set, and then we'll move to the next phases. Okay, I'm using the right angle to dig into the corner to see if I can shape this correctly. Yeah, it is giving me some good results here. It's a lot of work, you know. Okay, right, so let's finish this off. Okay, there you go. There we are. There you go. Ooh. There we are. I think I've got much of what I need now. Let's wipe round it. Okay. Oh wow, it's 6 o'clock. I think I started this live at, I can't even remember. Right. Okay. So we have managed to ganache the scallop. So the intention will be to let the cake set completely, and then we come and then we can cover the top with just a small touch of ganache to seal it all together. So I'm going to put this to set, and then I'll get the 7-inch, and then we can continue. Okay, this is our 7-inch cake. It's already covered in a layer of ganache. The ganache I am using is the ratio of 3:1, just in case you want to know. And I'm gonna get the consistency right by stirring the ganache together. The consistency you're looking at is something spreadable, yeah? Because this cake is already covered. I've just dipped that in hot water. And I'm just, this is the finishing touch. Okay, so I'm using I have a scraper to hand. I just have to wash it off slightly. And I'm going to run some more warm water around it. And I'll boil this water. So with the scraper, I'm going to go around. Right. I'm going to fill out the small patches in here. Right, that's it. We have a 7-inch cake that is covered, polished. There you go. And you. There. Oh gosh, this is nice. Yep. All done. A perfectly covered cake with sharp edges, right? So maybe, just maybe, let me try and see if I can remove the top. Right, to remove the top, I have to be very, very careful so I don't rip the, yep. All right. Okay. All right, so I can then see why the greaseproof paper was important, because I was able to remove the top without any difficulty. So now we have a perfectly set cake, but the top is not filled. That's the mistake I made earlier. So let's fill the top. Right. I think I'm gonna to set this cake up. Right. Okay. I'm going to let this chill and then we'll come back. I think at this point, you've seen me cover all 4 cakes. And it's going to be the same repetitive process of going back and forth. So we'll probably finish this live chat now. Check back in to the community post and you'll probably see the finished work of the cake. And then I will perhaps think about what else I want to show you. Because from this process moment on, we're going to have to do the ganache, the sugar craft, as in sugar paste, as in, I can't talk. My brain is gone fuzzy. Fondant. But we're not going to be able to do the fondant today. I'm focusing on covering the cakes completely. And then I'm going to let the cakes set overnight at room temperature. And then we'll cover them in the morning, first in the morning. But I'll have to spend the rest of the evening making some sugar flowers and stuff in between. But we have a day to cover the cakes and set the cakes up. So I'm sure I will be back again. Thanks for joining me on this stream. But I hope you picked yourself some helpful tips to help you along the way. And Tammy, thank you for the compliment. Much appreciated. If you check on the channel, there should be more tips for you, Tammy, and anybody else who wants to learn the basics of cake decorating. But otherwise, have a good one and I'll see you in my next video.